Do you know where the writers got the idea for this?
Well, Trent wrote the first draft, and I think it comes from his inherent mistrust of very, very wealthy people. You know, he has like he's an old punk rocker, so I think that's just sort of who he is. So I think there's a thread of that in a lot of his scripts. But David just took the ball and ran with it. We just tried to keep those initial themes intact.
And how did you guys come into it?
So, basically, there was this company that for a short amount of time was thinking they were going to do kind of what Travis is doing now, where they were going to find, a little bit more offbeat genre stuff that can be done independently, for not tons of money, that would allow filmmakers to just kind of try something different. And needless to say, we didn't find the money, but there was this one script that Trent had done, and I'd known him from before. And I just read it and I was like, this seemed, it's really contained. It's like the perfect independent kind of genre movie where it's, it's like just 4 characters essentially stuck in one place and things getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And I just looked at it, I was like, this, I want to direct this. I don't want to give this to anybody else. Like, I feel like I think this is completely doable and sounds completely fun. So ultimately I gave it to Travis and I said, what do you think? And Travis had just, I think, we'd done A Horrible Way to Die.
I think it was right after Aggression Scale time, and I was sort of putting together my upcoming slate. Evan and I lived together at the time. And so he knocked on the door and was like, what about this?
Yeah.
And read it, and you could, in Trent's draft, the whole movie was there, and we were like, this would be fucking awesome. And then Evan said, okay, so what do we need to do to make it even better? And began the work.
And it, there was a certain amount of development because, I think at that point initially it was, I didn't want to get Trent to have to do a bunch of rewrites because he has 2 kids and he's working and he's trying to do stuff, and we were doing it at such a low budget that it was just kind of like, let's work on the draft ourselves. And so we had, we went through a couple things internally. Then we found David, who's another friend of ours, who's a really young guy, really energetic, and funny as hell. And we put him to work like a workhorse and just broke his back for a while.
What David brought to it was this youthful energy and this irreverence and this voice for comedy and this sense of fun. And for this, I mean, seeing the movie, it's like, there could be a very bad version of this movie made where the bad guys are like twisting their mustaches and they're playing this evil game. And the idea of like, let's not make that movie. Let's make something fun where the audience doesn't know that these guys are bad.
Yeah.
And David was able to capture the voice of David Koechner's character really great. And Evan had this idea where Sarah Paxton's character, we wanted to give each person a thing. And his brilliant idea for Sarah was to be like, she's going to be controlling the entire game, not saying it much, but just sort of in the background on her phone, sort of dictating what's happening by sending her husband little nudges, like make this happen, make that happen.
When did the cast come into the process? Because it's sounding like you developed some of the characters around them.
No, we wrote it. We got it down first. Like we then went out with it. But the characters' voices were pretty specific.
But this is probably for every film. But I think part of the reason why this film kind of works is because Evan had such a clarity of vision in what he wanted to do with it, that when we were meeting with actors, we were meeting with the actors who already fit that character. Like it was a certain type that he wanted, so it wasn't sort of like, oh, we can get this bigger name. Well, they don't really, Michael Madsen or somebody like, you know what I mean? Like, so the casting was actually simple. I mean, it was stressful from the financing side, but it was really simple because you could have a 20-minute conversation with somebody, and if they got it, it's like they're good.
Well, we knew that we wanted Pat from the beginning, and it was kind of that was the kind of movie we were trying to make, and we knew that Pat could handle it. And then when Koechner came in to meet with us, he just started talking about all sorts of awesome, crazy, like political conspiracy stuff, and he loved it. And it was obvious that he'd wanted to do something darker and a little crazier than people were used to from him. And I just looked at him and I was like, I know there's another version of this, but with Koechner, if we're going to be stuck with this tiny room, 4 people for a whole movie. It needs to be entertaining, and we need to be along for the ride. And who better than somebody who's like really fun? So I was like, I want him to be the weird, evil centerpiece of the movie because he's like totally not that guy, you know. But then he is.
He's got a little bit about like that mustache twirling quality without doing it too much.
Exactly, by you know, inherent in what he does, you know. But it's like, but he's still fun at first, you know, and he draws you in, and you know, he has a good energy to him, so it works. And Ethan's fucking crazy, and it was like just a surprise that Ethan was a possibility. You know?
I didn't even recognize, like I've seen a lot of his work. I didn't even recognize him for a good portion of this movie.
Yeah. Well, it's weird, you know, because like Ethan's done a bunch of awesome character work that people aren't even as up on. Like I thought he was great in Vacancy for his little part. I thought he like killed it in that show Brotherhood that nobody's seen on Showtime, and it's like some of his best stuff that people just don't even reference. They're always just like, yeah, he was the cute kid from Dutch, or like, you know, Can't Hardly Wait. But it's like he can do some good fucking work.
He sells the tough guy like a lot better than I thought he would.
He does in real life too.
Yeah, we were at the wardrobe fitting. He came in, he's taking his clothes off, and the dude looks like David Beckham. I mean, he's just like ripped, like fully tatted up, and just like this badass like biker dude. We just sat there and we're like, this is Vince.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit.
He rides a bike.
Yeah.
Wait, like for real?
Yeah.
For real, he's like fully, he's a monster. And
see, I still have Empire Records ingrained in my head when he's all like innocent and high the entire time.
This is what you get. You get the sensitivity of Ethan Embry from Empire Records with the muscular body of like a fucking gladiator now. So basically he's just slaying all women.
Yeah.
So with such a talented cast here, how much work do you have as an actor's director? Like, do you have to give them much guidance, or did they run with it?
No, I think there's adjustments, but the cool thing about working with people that have done this so much is it's like they do the homework and they come in and they know they're not going to come in with a bunch of crazy choices that are really random. I think it's really just making sure that things stay, you know, whenever you're doing something so fast, it's easy to sometimes just kind of get tired and things kind of move to the left or to the right, and I think everybody's job is to just make sure that it just stays consistent, you know. And there's a couple times where you just kind of go, okay, well, this is the beat that we're trying to hit. That was great. Let's just remind ourselves how fucking pissed we were in the last scene, you know, which is also great about shooting in order, you know, because it's like sometimes things feel so crazy when you're shooting all over the place. You don't know where people are emotionally, but when you just had a scene where people are sitting there fucking staring at each other like they want to kill each other, and the next scene is them eating the dog, you're like, same energy, let's push it up, and that's great. There's a roadmap, you know.
The other thing that Evan's going to set up by this is like there's a stage quality to the piece. You know, 4 people, you know, you could do it as a play, and so getting their rhythms right, letting their performances have time to get that pacing done. He could let them do that work and just sort of sit back and focus on what do I want the camera to capture here? How do I want to construct this scene? And there's so much subtle accents that he's doing with the camera to sort of capture little beats, like when they hold hands during the fight, and these little fucking things that, you know, could have been shot like this straight on, and you know, you could have been like evil, and it just was an interesting approach to capturing it.
It's great. It's great to actually have fucking real actors. That's the thing. It's like, you know, you don't know how you're so boned by your casting. Like, if you don't get good people, like, it doesn't matter how hard you try. It doesn't matter. You could be squeezing that stone, and you're not gonna get it. You have to fucking trick it then. But like, they showed up, and they know what they're doing, you know.
And they probably have a lot of help from the fact that like all the blood and like the setting and the stuff is there. I mean, again, at the same time, I'm assuming you have a lot of movie magic here. So is there anything fun that you do on set in reality that like looks like wicked and like people maiming their bodies?
I think the makeup that Hugo did on Pat is like pretty disturbing in person.
Well, with the first scene of the movie we shot was the last shot in the movie, the last scene, which, not to spoil it, but the performance from the child was completely real.
Yeah.
And it was the most stressful way to start your shoot, because there is straight up, like, the reality of what Pat looks like is all of us are going, oh wow, and now it's awesome.
Now it's
How did
awesome.
that kid's
But yeah.
mother feel about that?
Well, she's a good friend of me and my wife's. Like the father he was in my writing group, for years. Like he writes creepy scripts himself. Like they were both on set, they were hanging out, and I kept on saying, shit, maybe we should stop, guys. Do you want to stop? And they're like, listen, get the scene and move on. He's cool. So, listen, I came home fucking crushed. And this is my first, second day, and like I came home fucking crushed, and like they sent me pictures of Eli the next day. Look, he's smiling, he's okay, but it's hard, It definitely made me go, I'm never gonna fucking work with a baby again or a dog, because you just, it's not we had so many like wild cards that we had to work on in this like movie where it's like a dog's not going to listen all the time. Butch, our dog, is not an actor dog. It doesn't respond to commands. It just sort of trots around when it wants to. And the baby's not an actor baby. Whether it's not it's not an adult. It's just going to fucking cry the whole time and make everybody bummed out and afraid. So ultimately we captured something that was really fucking effective. But when we were doing it, it was totally scary because you hear a baby cry. That's like an instinctual thing. You're like, something is wrong. Is it broken? But baby's fine. It's like. So
you can like practically kill some of your actors, but the baby crying bothers you.
It does. Completely. Yeah. It bothers everybody.
Because
it's a fucking
actors
siren.
Know what they're getting into.
Totally.
The baby, you're sitting there going, am I a bad person?
Totally. And it was a good lesson too, because like sometimes you write something and on the page you're like, okay, easy. He picks up baby. In the script the baby wasn't crying, he's just holding the baby. Suddenly the real world intrudes on your fucking, vision, and then it's just like, okay, we gotta do this. The script went farther. There was supposed to be a shot of blood dripping on the baby's forehead for like the last shot of the movie. I decided I wasn't going to shoot that in that moment, and I'm happy I didn't. I think that would have pushed it too fucking far. But everything changes when you're on set.
You have a really nice balance here of like comedy, drama, and horror. Is that how do you go about making that build and doing it appropriately?
Well, there's a lot of things, and I think initially just influences like Coen Brothers, De La Iglesia, a lot of this British black comedy, like just David Lynch, all sorts of stuff that's definitely informed that. I came in, I think that mentality was there when I was writing the script. I kind of wiped it out when I was filming the movie, and just thought, just to trick myself, because one thing, it was my brother actually gave me this initial thing. He was like, listen man, he's like, if you try to shoot a black comedy, you'll get something that's too broad. So imagine you're doing it as a drama. And I was like, okay. So then I stuck to that. But then when I was finished shooting it, Travis actually helped remind me of the inherent comic elements, which was a big help, because then I was still in this mode of like, I need to play it so straight, which helped ground the crazier shit. But then I had to open up again organically and go like, okay, like the movie does have these different tonal shifts, but you don't want to go in trying to be stupid and silly, even if that's in the script, because you're going to overshoot it and it's just going to be obnoxious and shrill. So.
How much did it change from set to editing? Because like a lot of the comedy comes from hitting the right cut.
You don't have enough time to like, there's not so many different versions of the movie. There's either the movie with less of the stuff in it, so it's like 70-something minutes and like really dry, or there's what we shot.
The thing that with the editing, with and getting that balance between them is you just start dialing in how to build a joke, how to build a suspense piece, how to build a murder, a payoff, and with this, which the whole movie is supposed to be escalating throughout it, it's just sort of fine-tuning. So it's not majorly different, but you just sort of hone that rhythm a little bit.
Because and it's different because it's like, how you approach like a scare set piece, an effects gag set piece, or reveal a joke, an emotional beat, they all are a different amount of like adjustments, and whether it's like a frame or everything leading up to it, ultimately, we don't have so many options because you don't have so much time, but you can. It is funny. It's amazing how much things change by just a frame, just a sound cue, just like some little things, and then it pops with people because the timing is just that precise. And luckily, we were able to screen it to people throughout the process that we trusted, some that we didn't, And that really does help you. At first, you know, walking into that was something that was really scary as a first-time filmmaker, because you're like, it's not done. Why do I have to show it to these people? They're giving advice on shit that's not finished. But as soon as you kind of go, okay, like you have to be able to separate the bad notes from really perceptive ones, and you're like, okay, because you're going to learn a lot about your own movie through the process, you know. And a lot of people, I think when you do a movie for $50 million, you better know exactly what your movie's going to be and exactly what you're shooting. But sometimes when you're fucking racing to get it done, it's a bit amorphous up to a point. So then you have to kind of shape it as much as you can, you know, at the end. So
how is the pressure for you as a producer? Small budget and all those things to worry about. I mean, and then like a baby, a dog, blood, all over clothes that you're going to have to set you have to redress.
There's no pressure. I mean, there's battles, but fuck it, that's what we're in it for. Yeah. It's like this is the space that we operate in right now, and we know what we're doing. And as long as you're working with somebody who has a clear idea of what he wants, then the rest is worth it. It's, you know what I mean? There's never a moment where you wake up and you go, oh, why did I decide to do this? You know, it's like.
Was there any one particular challenge that was like the toughest thing to accomplish? Or you had to pull the most strings to make happen the way you wanted?
There's the boring answer, which is finding a house in Los Angeles to shoot in at this budget that feels impressive enough. That's the boring answer. The funnier answer is probably trying to cast a kid during the poop challenge without letting the parents know that you're trying to cast their kid to come in on two guys trying to crap on a floor.
Yeah. A lot of sketchy shit. And like, you know, that's another example. Like we have this thing on paper. It's like, this is funny, whatever. You show up on set and suddenly the child actor shows up. And initially in the scene, you would have to have the people shitting and you'd see the kid through the room to kind of connect it all together. Kid shows up instantly, me and Ethan look at each other and we're just like, okay, this is going to be separate shots. Thank fucking God. Yeah. But, you know, it's once again, it's like magical mystery movie world. You don't always think about how things are going to be feeling when you actually shoot them, you know.
And now, hypothetically, let's say you two were in the movie. How far in this game do you think you would get?
He would go farther than me.
For less money.
I prefer less money. I'm a bit more conservative.
Evan he's like, no, they can't kill somebody for less than $1 million. It's like, $1 million? Are you kidding me, dude?
There was a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of discussion about price points of morality stages. So but you know, it's good because if it was like $1 million, it would have been a little ridiculous. You can get a hobo to like hit someone in the head with like a crowbar for like $20 here in Austin probably tonight. So.
Yeah, and we might after the screening. But the thing about it is, and I think Evan used this approach for the whole movie, is you wanted it to ground it in reality. And when you start talking about $1 million, $2 million, it becomes abstract. It's like the lottery. And often in people's audience members' experience, they haven't had $1 million on the table. What does that mean? But seeing 15 grand on the table, 50 grand on the table, and $250,000, that's a tangible number that people can really process what that would mean to their life. Because it's not magic.
And it hurts too. Those numbers still hurt. Like, one thing that was nice is like when Pat cuts his pinky off for $12,000, like it that hurts. That's not so much money. So it's still within this place of like, did you really win there, buddy? Like, and I feel like that was something, dialing that in was great in an ironic way because they're fighting over money that, yeah, it's great. It's a fucking good amount of money, but it's not this magical number that's going to change their life forever, you know. And that helps. That makes it more desperate.